Fourth time's a charm. Welcome into the EscapePod. We've started and restarted today.
We've sung songs. We've talked to computers.
We've yelled at computers.
Yep. We retired one.
It's done.
I didn't break it, but it's
You're
about
done
to
with
get
it.
broken. Yeah.
Okay.
If ever your life could be a true crime podcast episode, then this podcast is for you. We're about to embark on a roller coaster of emotions, insights, survival, and stories about escape. So buckle up and let the journey begin.
Welcome into the EscapePod.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year.
I'm
Still.
Julie.
I'm Charity, I think.
You are.
Still?
Okay. You are still. Yeah.
Kind of having an identity crisis.
It's been a morning, and we're recording on a morning we don't usually record on, which maybe it's getting our mojo off a little bit.
Yeah, I'm kind of messing with Julie's schedule because I need to be out of town for a significant amount of time. And so we're cramming a bunch of stuff into this week to make sure that listeners don't miss a week.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We would hate to leave you hanging out there.
We would hate that.
What are you escaping from this morning?
I think just the effects of trying to take 3 weeks worth of stuff and cram it into 1 week. It has been like, ah! So, I mean, so to the extent that yesterday was Monday, I thought today was Thursday because Monday was such a whirlwind. I passed out at 6 o'clock.
Oh, my gosh.
6 o'clock. I couldn't keep my eyes open. I just said, forget it. I might as well just go with it.
What time did you wake up?
4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that usually when you wake
Yeah.
up? Wow. 10 hours of sleep?
Well, yeah, I did wake up a little bit in there because when my husband got into bed about, I don't know what time it was, 9:30, 10, whatever, it woke me up. So, yeah.
Okay.
So then we had like a little conversation and then.
If I went to bed at 6 p.m., I would wake up at midnight or 12:30,
That's
1
normally
o'clock.
what happens,
Yeah.
but I've just been so stressed out with the mother-in-law stuff and her fighting us, and it's awful for everybody involved. So
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to deal with. Well, I am very much escaping a first world problem today. We need a new water softener, and today is the first day when I've noticed.
not what I expected you to say.
I washed my hair, and I was like, I don't think it's working anymore because it just feels different. And I've been using the same shampoo, and it is very much a first world problem. And I was reminded, well, not reminded because we work with people in poverty daily. I just don't do the direct services work. So while I tell their stories and I get to know people here and there and that type of thing, and I do a lot of educating of our community, as far as one-on-one conversations about things like this, I don't have them every day. But I was at a meeting in town that's a collaborative of nonprofits, and one of the organizations, the St. Vincent de Paul conference that's here in Rapid, they shared about some problem solving they did recently, and they work with people on a variety of issues. But one of them that they dug into was the water bills and how they used to be in Rapid City kind of confusing about what date you actually had to pay on, just the way they were worded on the bill itself. And then there were fees involved if you were late. And then they said, like, the timing, the kind of grace period was confusing for people because they would see a number, but that number is really based on like when you receive the bill, not from the due date of the bill. And so it would get people behind. And then they're getting another bill before they've even paid the first bill. And so they had a very candid conversation with a very willing listener at the city. And they literally changed together kind of how the water bill is worded.
Is that why ours say right now, do immediately?
I think so.
Do immediately.
Yeah. So it doesn't.
Nicole's like, damn it.
But I think the grace period still exists. But the point being that people would think they had like 3 weeks beyond the date.
Don't
that they
like
didn't
having
have.
a bill like sitting, even if I see it sitting on my desk, like at home.
You pay right away.
I pay right away.
I have dates of the month when I pay.
For me.
Yeah.
I just want to get it off my brain.
But they even did some research into how much people have paid in 1 year in like
Late
fees and the
activation.
Thank
Hook
you,
up, yeah.
former city council member. And it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And their point being that it affects the people in poverty more than anyone else.
Yep.
Because they're the ones who have a hard time paying a bill on time. And so it was, even for those of us in the room who are very much ingrained in the nonprofit human services world, it was eye-opening for people in that room. And so even though we know these stories and we deal with these stories on a daily and weekly basis, it still was a good lesson.
Yeah.
And we were really impressed. I was really impressed with their just taking a problem and finding a solution, and kudos to the city worker.
Well, that's
who
pretty
was
impressive
willing
because,
to listen and
you know, I mean, there's some great people at the city,
yeah.
but there's such a
Well, change is hard.
change is hard. We've always done things this way, and we're too busy to think about how to do something differently.
Yeah.
And like the finance department's great. There are some departments in the city that are you just want to stab your eyes out when you have to deal with them. So if I were ever mayor, there's one department in particular that would get an overhaul. Are you listening, Mayor Solomon?
Tell us how you really
I won't
feel.
call them out because, I mean, there's some good people there, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
really is just infuriating
Yeah.
to deal with them. So
Well, and at every level,
that's
in
good
every
news.
business and every organization, you have sometimes these niches, these pockets that you wish were a little different. So
Yeah.
it just was interesting. But I thought, well, I'm not escaping my water bill, but I am escaping the water softener that needs to be replaced because my hair feels funny today. Neither here nor
yeah,
there.
real
Again,
world problems.
Yeah, very much a
Overlander.
first world problem. I realize that.
Yeah.
So tell us our topic today.
Okay. So we've talked about legit squatters.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a great episode.
That
If
was a
you
great
haven't listened,
episode.
go back and listen.
We've talked about froggers.
Yes, that will still wake me up at night.
Okay.
I'm not even lying.
This one is kind of a combination of the two.
Oh,
So it's an unwanted house guest.
okay. So they were a guest at some point.
They were a renter
Okay.
that refuses to leave
Okay.
and ruins lives. And it is wild.
Okay.
So let me see if I can find it real quick if I scroll down.
Squatter.
It was a documentary that I watched on Netflix. I apologize for not remembering the title. It might be on the Worst Roommates Ever series where there's a bunch of different stories. It might be one of the, yeah, it is one of those. And I don't know. I was just like doing my nails and I'll get sucked into something. And I'm like, this really ties into some of the things that we've talked about. And then the thing that should stand out as we go through this is different women. And it wasn't just women that were impacted by this serial squatter that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
But there's, I think, 3 women in this particular rundown that we're going to discuss. But the emotional and physical hell that they go through
Ooh.
with this person, like it is creepy. This would make a tremendous horror movie.
Ew.
So
I keep thinking about how we combine squatting and frogging. Squagging
squagging
doesn't have the ring to
it
it.
doesn't quite have the ring to
No.
it. Serial squatter kind of sounds like serial killer, which he
Did he kill somebody?
maybe.
Oh,
Maybe. You're going to have to really
it's
listen.
a rough way to
find out.
start a Tuesday morning. All right.
Serial squatter.
Tell me
You know what? Keep shopping it because you might have a good nickname for this douche by the time we're done.
Okay.
Okay.
Give me the deets.
All right. 2005, we're going to start Queens, New York. First lady we're going to discuss is named Arlene. So, man by the name of Jameson Bachman. So, he's our star douchebag.
Okay.
Okay. He gets hired on at a private school to teach history to grade school students.
I was going to say he sounds like the heir to a fortune, that name.
He does.
Okay.
He does, actually, yeah. So the school let him stay at a house that was on their property. And in his free time, he would take his dog to the dog park. And that was where he met Arlene, our first victim here. They struck up a friendship. They bonded over the dog. Then they started dating. It became clear to Arlene pretty quickly that Jameson kind of had some delusions of grandeur, like a super smart guy, but he hadn't been at the school very long. But he made some comments to her that led her to believe that he was going to be the dean of the school and running the place after just like 4 months or something really short. And she was just like, maybe you're getting a little ahead of yourself.
Right.
And when she told him that, he just like flipped. His switch just flipped.
Ooh.
Almost like a different personality, and it scared her.
Okay.
Really scared her. She said it was like his eyes changed. She actually, for a moment or a span of time, feared for her safety, even though she had an intimate relationship with this guy.
Ooh.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Having been in fear of my life with an intimate partner, it's challenging. So she smartly removed herself from the situation when this was going on. Went and talked to him for a while. 3 weeks later, he called her with an apology. 3 weeks. And an explanation to his strange behavior. He was saying there's a lot of stress at work, problems at work, yada, yada. And then she, poor thing. And I don't want to victim blame, but man, I know she regrets this. This is the worst regret of her life. Lets him back into her life, only to learn that the school had fired him.
Ooh.
And he was at risk of becoming homeless. So
that's the apology.
3 weeks. If he's not apologizing right away,
Yeah.
it's about him, right? 3 weeks later, ulterior motive. Yeah.
And I think clearly needing a place to go.
Yep, exactly. She was the path of least resistance, right? And she felt bad for him. I mean, they had a romantic relationship. Sure. He had a dog. She didn't want him. She cared about him.
Yeah.
So she told him, sure, you can stay with me for a couple of months until you land a new job, get a new place to live, blah, blah, blah. But rule number 1, we need to start laying some rules here in the EscapePod.
Okay.
And we've said it before, no good deed goes unpunished. And Arlene learned this really the hard way, because when she got home from work the very next day of letting him stay with her,
oh no,
his stuff and his dog were there, and her whole apartment was rearranged.
Oh no.
Yeah, you don't mess with my aesthetic. You don't move my stuff. You don't touch my stuff.
I mean, I'm not even like that. Sometimes I want other people to come into my house and fix my house up. But still not okay.
Not okay. I mean, he just took ownership of the space. He's like, nope, this is mine. After day 1.
That's
who does
crazy.
that when someone
right
is
there,
helping you out so that you're not homeless?
That's like a giant, mega-sized red flag.
What color should the flag be when we know it's a sociopath? Because that is very...
It's wild.
Yeah. Anyway, so his behavior escalates within a few weeks. He starts constantly complaining about issues with the apartment to the landlord as if he's the renter.
Ooh.
And he's just staying with her, right? Yeah. Supposed to be short term. Arlene says that he did pay at first a portion of the rent for about 1.5 months to help her out. But after that, he just made excuse after excuse after excuse. So this arrangement was always meant to be temporary in her mind. Sounds familiar, with something we're dealing with, but we won't go there. But when his mail started showing up to her apartment, she realized he was not planning to leave.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'm choking on air now. Excuse me. So she goes to the police. She tells them she wants to change the locks. And they told her, because remember when we did the squatting episode, New York had some of the worst laws that supported squatters.
Yeah.
So tenants, renters, owners, landlords got the raw end of the deal. Mm-hmm. We're in New York. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the police said, well, if you change the locks and you lock him out of your apartment that you're paying rent for, you're going to get arrested.
Oh, my.
Uh-huh. So the guy claims to have a law degree but failed the bar. I learned later, after looking into him a bit, he never did graduate, but he was super smart. So he's highly intelligent when it came to the law. All this to say that he knew how to maneuver the legal system to his advantage. Yeah, and this goes on for years.
Dangerous combination, being super smart and then having some of the other issues he obviously has.
Being a sociopath. And just wait, this one heats up.
Okay.
Years.
He lives there?
Yes. Not weeks, not months, but years. And into the second year, of course, their intimate relationship had ended. She's like not wanting any of that. And she moved herself into her small spare bedroom. She was kicked out of her own bed, in her own bedroom, in her own apartment that she pays freaking rent for, and he would not leave her bedroom.
Can't she just end the lease with the, like, could she move? Maybe she didn't have the resources to
I
move.
think it was, to try to find,
Sure.
resources.
And not fair to her, don't get me wrong, but sometimes path of least resistance.
There is another lady we're going to talk about what she does to try to outsmart him.
Okay.
It's going to bring a smile to your face.
Okay. Excellent.
But this went on for
4 years.
4 years. She wanted to leave, but she knew that if she left, he wouldn't pay rent. And she didn't want her she and her landlord were really good friends. She didn't want him to be, left dealing with this guy. So she decided to tough it out, and she decided to get tougher with him. So things escalated even more after she confronted him about a cable bill. She said, "Hey, I'm not going to pay it ananymore. You want it, you pay it." He just tore it up, got in her face, and then grabbed her by the throat. That was his solution to that little, "Oh, you're going to challenge me?" Reminds me of someone else I know in my life. She kicked him with her knee. She got away, went to the police, who told her to file
Protection
a
order.
protection order. So she did, only to learn that Jameson had filed one against her first.
So she's been in violation.
Yep.
And he's not using it against her till he needs to.
So she decided to engage her landlord in the eviction process and go to court, ask him to go to court with her. And Jameson figured out that she was going to file for eviction, because the next thing she knew, police were looking for her over an alleged attack with a knife that Jameson occurred the morning of court. Isn't that an interesting coincidence? And this was a felony charge.
Yeah, that's scary.
It never happened, but she's charged with a felony. She was arrested. She got put in jail. Next morning in court, the judge refused to let her go home and sentenced her to probation for a year, all on this man's word and nothing more.
Wow.
Don't ever live in New York. Sorry, New Yorkers. That's how charming and legally intelligent this guy was. He's good looking. He's super intelligent. He's charming, blah, blah, blah. But it didn't matter because Jameson got the order of protection first, and that's what gave him the upper hand in this situation. She became suicidal. She still had her pets at her apartment, 2 of whom were very ill. And by the time she got a court order to get her pets, he had taken the 2 ill cats to a kill shelter.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And because Arlene wasn't allowed, because of the protection order, to go back into her own apartment, I would lose my shit on somebody. Like,
Yeah.
you just feel powerless.
Yeah.
It is so frustrating. But Jameson was now the landlord's problem and his nightmare. The man always seemed to be needing somebody to terrorize, whether it's a neighbor, the landlord. Now Arlene's gone, so he's got to find somebody else. And so because she was out of the picture, he just began spreading the love. Neighbors, landlord, everyone was getting terrorized. For instance, he would run the water constantly to increase the water bill to the landlord because
They have to pay them.
They have to pay that. Just be a dick. The police would come when the landlord would shut off the water and force him to turn it back on.
Yeah.
He dumped kitty litter out of his window, and he was on an upper floor, onto the lawn of the landlord and just wrecked the lawn. He would drop a tree stump, on the hardwood floor over and over and over again just to piss off the downstairs tenants.
That seems like vandalism, though. I feel like there's some things that...
I think so, but
Yeah.
police, again, they look at the squatter laws. Nope, got a right to be there.
Oh,
No, I don't think he's got a right to be there.
no.
There needs to be some discretion in that stuff. But they spent a lot of time in court trying to get this guy evicted. He would thwart their plans time and again because he seemed to know the law better than the people in the court system.
That's crazy.
And it did finally catch up to him, though. He was eventually evicted, but he took her 2 cats when he left.
Oh.
He just has to have the last
Yeah,
word,
yeah.
if you will, right? So she was just absolutely grateful to get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
Mortified and sad that he took her pets with her.
Yep.
But, okay, we're going to jump now to Queens, New York, 2012.
Okay.
And a lady named Sonia. So Sonia had a dream of owning a beachfront property. And I imagine in that part of the country, it's going to be expensive, right?
Sure.
So she sees this new complex being built, decides to take a chance. She takes a loan out against her pension.
Oh.
Knowing that if she had a roommate, she could likely afford her dream apartment. She finds a roommate. Everything was great. But then she lost the roommate. She was forced to find a new one quickly because she could not afford this mortgage on her own. Not even close. She placed an ad. Wouldn't you know? A knight in shining armor. We need a new name for him. Jameson Bachman. Creepy fuckface. How's that? You can bleep that out. But he answered it. He came to see it. And get this. Comes to check it out. Brings a U-Haul on the day he came to see it. Pretty presumptuous. And he said he was living out of the U-Haul at that time. He had a dog with him. He brought the security deposit. And, of course, he's charming. And I'm ready to move ASAP. And she needs the money, right? So she thought it was going a bit fast and probably should have listened to that intuition saying, but that sense that maybe this is the blessing that I needed, right?
I wonder if a background check would have showed any. Would it?
Not yet.
Okay.
I
just wonder, like.
Knowing what I know now, it may have. But he also used aliases. So it may have been harder.
Or you might have been like, why does somebody have some aliases?
Right.
Sometimes those show up,
but that was harder to make the connection on. Yeah.
Okay.
So he answers the ad, brings the U-Haul, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, handsome dude, charming guy, cash in hand, sweet doggy. And she wants to keep her dream property. So she lets him move in. And they got along well for the first 3 months. She was an animal nurse. She liked how he was with his pets. Now he has the dog, Zach, and the 2 cats that he stole from Arlene, Emma, and Abigail. So that scored him some points with her, because I judge people on that too. If they're good to their pets, they're usually good to people. They're usually good people. But after 3 months, guess what he did? Stopped paying rent. Weird. She took him head on right away. She's a scrappy little thing. Like, she's just like, I mean, she was already working 2 jobs. She's losing her hair due to the stress of having to work herself to death to try to hold on to this dream home. I don't know if any dream home is worth it.
I don't think so. No.
She filed for eviction, but they told her again, he had the right to live there for 3 months until the eviction process was completed. So she's helpless. So I like what she does. In her desperation to try to make him uncomfortable enough to leave and also to help her with her bills, she literally set up a freaking tent in her living room up against a wall, like in her dining space, and rented that space to a woman with 2 dogs. And it pissed Jameson off because there were too many people and too many animals all in a 1-bathroom apartment. But 2 could play at that game because this is what sociopaths do, right? They're never going to not get the last word. And so he starts harassing the new roommate, threatening her until he drove her out. And he was very tall, very well-built, imposing.
Okay.
And so physically threatening this woman, drove her out. And now he knew that Sonia had filed for eviction, and that's when he became really aggressive with her. She was terrified that he was going to harm her while she slept. And the whole time he was telling her that he was going to steal her home from her. And he just let her know. He became more aggressive with her. She was scared for her safety. So she decided to test if he was coming into her room while she was sleeping or while she was at work. She placed a glass bottle behind the door. When she got home from work, she found the bottle moved. She confronted him about going into her room. And when she because like I said, she would take things head on. Unlike Arlene, who just moved herself to the spare bedroom, right?
Who dealt with it for 4 years.
4 years, yeah. He got really angry when she confronted him. He came into her personal space, but she knew jujitsu.
Nice.
And so she struck the door instead of him, but warning blow, right? But then a hurricane came. Legitimately a hurricane, and they were clearing the area, so the eviction was delayed. That postponed everything because of the evacuation.
When it rains, it pours.
Yeah, see, no good deed. So 2 weeks later, when she came home after the hurricane was over, she went to the apartment. He was gone, But she got so behind due to him not paying rent that she was foreclosed on, and she lost that home anyway, and is still in financial distress because of it, because she had taken this loan out against her retirement account. So now she can't even afford to retire.
Yeah.
So he ruined her.
Don't do that, people.
Okay, so now things are going to escalate. This was 2012. Now we're jumping to 2017.
Okay.
Philadelphia. So he's worn out his welcome in New York.
Mm-hmm.
He's now in Philly. A lady named Alex Miller. So same kind of situation. She's living in her dream apartment, loses her roommate in her dream neighborhood, didn't want to move. And so her mom stepped in to help with the rent short term.
Okay.
But, mom's not going to pay rent indefinitely, right?
Right.
So Alex finally posted an ad on Craigslist. Don't do that, anybody. Nothing good comes out of Craigslist, I don't think. I think we should know this by now, right? Should that be rule number 2? Nothing good comes out of Craigslist, in the hopes of attracting an awesome new roommate. So she gets a call from a man who called himself Jed Creek. For some reason, I was skeptical right away when I heard that name.
Yeah,
and this
weird.
is actually the story I heard first when I'm like, Jed Creek? I mean, yeah, it's possible, but I don't know. It just didn't sound real to me. He claimed to be a lawyer who was temporarily working as a tutor. So she researched him. He had an impressive website that he ran his tutoring business through, which was legit. He tried to get an address out of her right away, and she flat out told him she wasn't comfortable telling him where she lived just yet.
Okay.
So she agreed to meet him at a public place, a coffee shop, just to get a feel for him in real life because, people on the phone can be totally different from people in person.
Correct.
Right? So he was super personable, again, good looking, charming, all this stuff, claimed he needed to move back to his hometown of Philly to help his aging mother and a brother who was in some legal trouble. So it was fortunate that he had a law degree. He was clean cut, no serious red flags. She called him herself tall, dark, handsome. They both had dogs, so she suggested getting the dogs to meet first because obviously if the dogs aren't going to get along, that's going to be a problem. And then she wanted to see him with his dog too. So if you're a dog person, that does stand out to you, right?
Yeah.
Kids and dogs are good judges of character. So if a dog thinks this guy's okay, dogs are just so forgiving. Anyway, I thought it was a good idea. But the dogs had a great play date. It was really good. They made her comfortable enough that she's like, okay, you can come and see the apartment. The dogs continued to get along in her dog space in their apartment. So she saw that as a good sign. He checked all the boxes. He said he'd fill out the paperwork. And she, for some reason, unfortunately, let him move in that night before the paperwork was signed. And he brought with him a cat that he failed to mention, as well as a fish that he failed to mention. So he just keeps collecting animals as he moves along here. So big red flags because it turns out Alex, like me, was highly allergic to cats.
Oh, my.
And when she mentioned this, he just dismissed it. The cat's not going to be a problem. She hides all the time. You won't even notice her here, blah, blah, blah. He brought a bunch of plastic bins in along with the pets. He had no furniture, which she thought was strange. And as soon as he was in the apartment, just like he did with Arlene, he moved her things around. He started unscrewing light bulbs, completely rearranging her space, taking plants out of the apartment that he didn't like, stealing her kitchen chairs from her dining table to make a desk and table in his bedroom because he had no furniture of his own and he wanted privacy. So she challenged him on this, and he just gaslighted her. You don't need that many chairs at a dining table being a single woman. They're my chairs.
Yeah.
They're my chairs. I'm going to shove one of these chairs up your ass if you don't put them back. But that's not what she did. So she graciously said, okay, you can keep 2. No, let me take that back. That's not what happened. He graciously allowed her to keep 2 of her chairs.
Oh, how kind of him.
At her dining table in her apartment.
Man.
So this is beyond red flags. This is like radioactive, right? Yeah, burning flags.
Yeah.
What would you have done in this situation?
Oh, I don't even know. What do you
feel
do?
Powerless.
Yes. I mean, hopefully I would have a friend with a law degree who could give me some good advice.
A friend with a cop for a husband?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Something like that you could, turn to somebody and say, what do I do? I think
Fortunately, we're in South Dakota, so
Yeah, the different rules for
Yeah.
sure. But I do that's what's frustrating as I listen to this is because we jokingly say no good deed goes unpunished. And a lot of times when I think of that, it's like the volunteer stuff that I do that ends up being like way more work than you ever thought it would be. Always, right? But it's important to you, so you keep doing it and whatever. But it shouldn't be that way. Like, you should be able to welcome somebody into your home and give somebody a reprieve from their housing insecurity issues for a month or two.
without being punished for
without
it.
being punished for it. And
Or terrorized,
right.
as we're going to get
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
Yep. I think that's it. We say it jokingly, but it is the truth. It's like our laws should not be such that you can't, in good conscience, do a good deed.
Yeah.
And feel like you are safe in your own home and those types of things.
Well, what happens when, predators have more rights than good-hearted people? Good-hearted people are going to stop doing good-hearted things.
Right.
Charity goes out the window.
Right.
Because I'm going to get ruined financially, or my kids are going to be put in danger, or something else.
Yep.
So we have to be super careful.
Yeah.
And it just sucks. We shouldn't have to be, but we have to be.
Yeah, I think that's the frustrating part for me, for sure.
Yeah. So things in Alex's situation went from just kind of weird to really bad pretty quickly. Every time she asked him for utility payments, he'd just laugh at her sinisterly and refuse. Yeah. And then told her this was his space now, and she would need to take him to court if she wanted to get any money out of him.
See, he does. He knows.
He knows the laws, baby.
He knows the ins and outs of all of
Yep,
this.
and he's done this
he's
so many
using
times.
it against good-hearted people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So her take charge mom, she's fierce. I loved mom in this. She starts doing some investigating, and she couldn't find anything about a man named Jed Creek.
Nah.
But she did a search on Jed's phone number.
Ooh.
Different name pops up. Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, creepy fuckface. So, who just so happened to have a history of being what a reporter by the name of Samantha Melamed called a space invader. That's actually a really good name.
Ooh.
So she quoted it, but space invader, or a serial squatter with a violent streak. So this guy had a history of moving into rooms for rent with fake information and false promises, and then wouldn't pay, wouldn't leave, and what's worse, started terrorizing the people who lived there, including Alex. So when Alex got the call that her tenant wasn't who he said he was, she was terrified.
Yeah.
Reached out to the police right away. But like we've talked about before in our squatting episode, some states have more rights for squatters than the actual leaseholders, and Philadelphia is just like New York.
Oh.
So if you get, mail at an address, you're a tenant in those states, whether you have a lease or not. So, think about that. You can just go to the post office and say, change of address, blah, 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 and have no tie to that place. It's insanity. And Jameson completely terrorized poor Alex. She wasn't having it, though. I mean, it mortified her, like her stress. You can see it in these interviews, like still, now that even it's over, and you can still see, just like, we always talk about the mind can't tell the difference between something real or something vividly recalled.
Sure.
And you can see the cortisol just seeping through her and the tears and stuff, like still, even though she's out of danger. But she was like, all right, again, just like Sonia did, how can I make him uncomfortable so that he wants to leave, because I can't make him leave? So she decides to have a party with all the things that he doesn't like. I freaking love this. Rap music, smoking pot, booze, in fact, Jameson whiskey, because she thought she was real clever. I love this. And so he's trying to work his online tutoring business in his bedroom. And she told her guests about his past, and they started talking about him, and he can hear them.
Oh, my gosh.
So she had the apartment decorated with his real name, quotes from articles that exposed his past behaviors. He took his dog. He left the apartment.
So good.
But he wasn't gone yet.
No, of
So
course
she
not.
couldn't change the outside locks, but when he left the apartment for that night, a friend at the party removed his doorknob. She couldn't change the locks.
Uh-huh.
She removed his doorknob.
Okay.
And so when he came back, she turned up the music even louder, and even though she and her friends could tell he was pissed.
Yeah.
But she was determined to party every day until that son of a bitch left.
I mean,
I love it.
that's fun.
I love it. I couldn't handle all the partying, but hey, man, I'd take one for the team.
Sure. Yep.
So the morning after one of these parties, Jameson hit his breaking point. As she was brushing her teeth that morning, he forced his way into the bathroom and began strangling her. Got right in her face and told her she's made a grave mistake trying to irritate him. After he let her go, she became so enraged, like, screw this. You've terrorized me. This is my apartment. She chased him into his room, where she found him wielding a knife.
Oh, my.
He rushed her, intentionally slamming her leg in the door over and over again and slashing at her leg with the knife. She called the police. It was considered DV, domestic violence.
Sure.
One of the officers saw the signs of strangulation, and then she showed him her bleeding leg, and that's what got him arrested.
Finally.
So she filed for a protection order with eviction, which is a thing. It's also a thing here, so I learned about that. But now douchebag's in jail, but she needs to clear out his stuff, and she had limited time.
Yep.
So she saw a lot of unsettling things in his room, like records of other cases of people that he'd taken advantage of before, like folder files of things.
Sure.
Then she found a gun case with the gun not present.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Then the DA called Alex to tell her that Jameson's brother Harry bailed him out of jail.
Oh, no.
So at least they gave her a heads up. But because of what happened with Jameson, the property manager refused to renew Alex's lease.
Sure.
And so now she's losing her home on top of all of this. And this is like just in this story, 3 women, but there are at least a handful more people that there's documentation on that were subjected to this type of terror. He would just one after one after one after one. But I'm unsure if they lost their homes because of him as well. Ironically, Alex decided to adopt his dog out to a friend while he was in jail.
Okay.
And when
I'm surprised he has friends, but
I know.
go on.
No, her friend.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And while she returned all of his other property, he threatened to kill her because he was so angry about losing the dog. But that threat, no matter why he was angry, was fortunately a violation of his protection order. So he gets out of jail, is bailed out of jail, gets pissed at her for adopting out his dog, threatens her again, violation of protection order, back in jail. So he's hunted down, arrested, but his brother Harry bails him out again.
Oh, Harry.
Okay, so now we know Jameson is violent, he's disturbed, and his brother is enabling him to continue these behaviors, right? So when he gets out of jail this time, his brother refuses to give him a place to stay.
Because he knows better.
He knows better.
He'll
but
bail him out, but he won't let him stay.
I think he's bailing him out of guilt, which I'll get to in a moment. But he became super angry. And his a childhood friend that Jameson had kept in touch with was able to, like, reveal this. Like, when his brother rejected him, wouldn't give him a place to stay, he kind of flipped his lid. So Harry Bachman's wife called 911 for a welfare check after her husband didn't arrive where he was supposed to be.
Oh, no.
The last text she got from him stated that his brother Jameson showed up at their home. So they go to check on him. His vehicle was gone. Officers enter the house. There were signs of a violent struggle, like broken walls and dishes, blood spatters, smears on the floor. They went down to the basement and they found Harry's body.
Oh, no.
So he had taken his brother's credit card but left, stupidly, Harry's phone at the scene of the crime. And the cops saw the phone and noticed a text that his credit card was used at a hotel.
Okay.
Like, and if you don't have that notification, you should, because anytime, like, did you do this, right? Approve it, blah, blah. And that's where they figured out where they could find Jameson. So they did. They go and hunt him down. He didn't come without a fight. He attacked police officers. He slashed at them with an axe.
Oh, my.
Like, the guy knew, like, he's going down swinging, right?
Yep.
So one officer was struck in the face by the axe. Another was struck in the arm. But he was finally subdued and arrested. And when the court date came, Alex and others waiting to see this guy get what he deserves. I mean, they're waiting in the courtroom to see this bastard brought to justice. But he was a no-show.
How?
Because, like so many sociopaths, he took his own life and was never held accountable for all the damage he did to other people. This happens all the time. They have to have that power.
Yeah.
They have to have the last word.
I did not see that coming.
Yeah. A lot of them do that.
Holy cow.
So, serial squatter. I don't know. And I don't know how to tell you because, I mean, it's a gamble unless you already know the person. And then even then people change and sometimes it's hard to get rid of people. But I mean, hopefully you all are living in places where you can afford it on your own and not have to be put in these positions. But it's just really horrific. So.
Whoa.
So, how about that for our little arsenal of squatter-related stories?
Super interesting stuff there. Yeah, it does. It makes me angry because it does. Why would you want to do something nice for somebody?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the moral of the story, which is not a moral I love because I like to think that if I could help somebody in that way, I'd be able to, but goodness gracious.
Yeah, I mean, I've been burned helping people.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not the only one.
No.
Clearly, these women were ruined by.
Well, lucky for them, they did survive him because he clearly had more than a little violent streak. He was a killer.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Can we turn the page on that and talk about?
Let's please do.
Someplace you'd like to escape
Puppies.
to? Puppies. We have two
puppies
building.
today. We have an English bulldog puppy named Beans, and we have a black lab puppy named Annie that I'm in love with. Don't let my husband hear this one.
Okay.
But that's
him close. Plug your ears at the 40-minute mark.
It is so good for morale and just puppies.
Yeah.
I heard squealing out in my hallway, and I thought it was a little kid running up and down the hallway, and I love to go see the kids.
It's our HR director.
It was our HR director talking to the puppies.
Your face looking at me was like, where did that come from?
I know.
I'm like, it's Nicole.
Yeah, that was cute. But no, puppies. And I got to see Beans. Chad had him outside going potty, and he got the zoomies after he went potty. And to see that little chunky butt sticking up in the air with that little curly tail wagging was the freaking cutest thing. And then he's like going to get Chad, and then he flips over and just shows his belly like, okay, I'm done now.
Yeah.
Because he's so chunky. He just wears himself out. Mm-hmm. Just cute as hell. So
they are super cute.
Anyway.
I am escaping to a middle school band concert, which some people might kind of, but they're really to the point now where they sound pretty good. So they're nice concerts. Yeah. So that'll be.
I enjoyed middle school concerts.
Yeah. I mean, so I was thinking about this. When they first start out, it can be so bad.
Agonizing.
But they're so cute. You let it go.
Oh, of course.
So we're at the point where it doesn't matter if they're cute because now they actually play music you can understand. You can
It makes
recognize.
sense. It's musical. Yeah.
It is musical.
It's not just technical. It's musical. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So that's my escapism this evening.
Good.
Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate every single one of you. If you like what you heard, please share it with a friend who you think might like it too.
Share with all the people.
Share with all the people.
All the people.
We're a small team here, so we appreciate any and all support. Hopefully, one day we'll be able to provide operational support for the nonprofit where we work. It's called One Heart here in Rapid City, South Dakota, where our mission is empowering people to overcome crisis and achieve self-sustainability.
Yes, a true podcast for a cause, so you really can feel good about spreading the word. I haven't known very many podcasts that are for a nonprofit.
Not usually, no.
So it's important, and we hope to bring some entertainment value and some educational value while we're doing this. But please, you can pull up our website at EscapePod.live. You can rate, you can review there, or wherever you listen to your podcast. You have the ability to do that right in the apps. But that kind of exposure, just clicking on a little 5-star review or, hey, this is great. It just really helps us gain more exposure. So if someone else likes the true crime genre, it's like, hey, you might want to listen to the Escape Pod. And more listeners equals more ad revenue. And that's how we hope one day we can really help support the nonprofit that we work for. You can also, from visiting EscapePod.live, link out to our socials from there, or reach out to us at JustBecause@EscapePod.live to share your thoughts on the show or ideas for topics, or share your escape story with us at EscapeArtist@EscapePod.live. Maybe you have dealt with a serial squatter or a really horrific roommate. We would love to hear. Right. Please write in.
Yeah, for sure. We are closing the hatch on this episode of the Escape Pod. Remember, though, trauma may be inevitable. How you grapple with it is optional. So stay resilient.
Keep the rap music going.
Party if you have to.
Party if you have to, and keep laughing. Bye, everybody.